I just finished building Darth Vader's lightsaber. So this commission is actually for a customer I've done a couple builds for before, but this time he wanted me to do a Darth Vader ESB build. He sent me this hilt from Corbanth. This is the Corbanth MPP, but before we get into that, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and if you're interested in commissioning a lightsaber build from me, feel free to contact me on my Instagram or through my website, averycastillo.com. But without further ado, let's get right into showing off the lightsaber. Alright, let's start this off by going over the hilt. The first thing I'm going to say about it is this is a fingerprint magnet. You're going to get fingerprints on it just by looking at it. If you can see here, there's just fingerprints, even though I've been spending a ton of time trying to wipe it off. What you're going to want to do is get some kind of cloth. This is for, I guess, either glasses or for a computer or something. You're going to want to wipe it down after every use. So, a little bit annoying, but that's sort of how it is. It's the nature of this lightsaber. Now, the second thing I'm going to go over are the wires. I got these wires from a wire conversion kit from the Saber Armory. It's meant for Corbanth lightsabers, I guess, and you can just get them to turn it into an ESB version. So what I did was I cut them down to size, then I fit them into these slots. It was pretty tricky to do because if you can see here, the little tongues and stuff doesn't leave much room. I tried my best to widen them, but that didn't really work too well. Basically what I had to do was I had to cut the wires at an angle so that you cut it like that, I guess, so it has a little tongue. Then you stick it into that tiny opening, and I glued it all down with E6000. So I don't know how secure they are, but they're as secure as they're gonna get. Other than that, you have them in the correct slots. So I based this off of Wanawanga, their blueprint for the MPP, the ESB version. It goes white, blue, gray, brown, and then red, all in these spots. So yeah, I don't know how secure they are, but they're as secure as they're gonna get. If they do fall out, don't worry too much about it. You can just use some E6000 and try and plop them back on. It can be a little tricky, but what I recommend is trying not to handle them too much. Which I don't imagine you would be, because when you hold the lightsaber, you hold it like this so you can access the button, or like that, so you won't be touching it too much. Just be mindful about it. Other than that, the only other thing I did to the actual hilt portion of this, well, I actually did two things. But the first is this bubble card. So this didn't want to stay in very well when I first got the hilt. So what I did, it's a pretty simple trick that you can use for all bubble strips. I used clear tape, it's just Scotch tape. And I put it on the bottom. I have maybe 2 layers here, and I cut them to size so that they fit perfectly. And I made sure not to leave any fingerprints or whatever, so it looks as clear as it can be. And that just allows a little bit more friction between the clamp and the bubble strip. So if you ever need to make this a little tighter, add another layer of Scotch tape. Now the other thing that I did was a little bit more hands-on. So if you look here, there's a screw up top that holds this whole thing together along with this screw. But for whatever reason, it wouldn't screw in. There was a screw in the kit, but when everything was aligned, it didn't want to screw into the hilt. So what I ended up doing was I took a thread tap. I think it was 3M, something like that. So I did a 3M thread tap, and I just slowly tapped those threads in order to allow it to go in. And now it works. So we have both of those securely fastened. Now, talking about these things, we have sort of these greeblies, these little detail pieces. The only one that is functional is this piece. This is going to be your blade retention screw. You'd think it would be this one, but this is a bit too high up. This is the blade retention screw. It just sticks out into the emitter, and it grabs onto your blade and holds it in place. And then this is your button. This is a 1-button setup. There's no possibility to have a second button in the way that this is designed, so that is your button. Now that I've gone over the hilt, let's go over the actual install of this. So I installed this with a Shadowfoil props chassis, which I'll show you in a second, but to access it, what you're going to want to do is open up the clamp by lifting up the lever, and then hold on to the emitter so you don't muck up the chrome, and also because this clamp is loose, so it's not going to give you a good grip on unscrewing this. So just hold on to the emitter, and then unscrew the whole grip area. You're going to see the clamp spinning around, but don't worry too much about that. You can always just reorient it later. Then once it's completely screwed off, you can just pull it out. And there you go, you have the chassis. As I said before, this is a Shadow Foil Props chassis. It's a super, super nice print. I don't know exactly what printer, but you barely see any lines. It's super solid and thick. It has a 28mm bass speaker from Smuggler's Outpost. This is the dark side, because my customer wanted it to have more bass. So I got him the dark side, Smuggler's Outpost bass speaker. This is a Proffie V3.9. We have a stock V4 Eco, something like that, or just a stock V4 pixel connector in there that you can't really see. And the chassis itself is affixed to the hilt. So this is not a removable chassis. I had to use some E6000 in order to hold it in, not some. I used a good amount in order to hold it in, left it for a day or two. And then this thing is super solid. Other than that, yeah, it's a pretty basic install. It's just a Proffie with a battery, kill switch, speaker, and NeoPixel connector. And then you have your button that came with the hilt. Let me go over how you customize this real quick. So you're gonna need a micro USB 90-degree angle. You can move the Proffie board out because it's not glued in or anything. It's just using these sort of shelves to hold it in. Accessing the SD card can be a bit annoying, but you can take some tweezers, try and grab it and just wiggle it out. But what I find is best is just using the micro USB port and then customizing your SD card through there. Might be a bit slower, but it's a little easier. You don't have to, wiggle this thing out and possibly lose it. If you do lose it, you can just remove the soundboard, shake it around, have it fall out. But yeah, that's just the nature of owning a lightsaber, figuring out how to access these things. But other than that, we have the battery. The negative goes towards the emitter and the clamp. Positive goes towards the kill switch and the speaker. It also says on the chassis itself which way is positive and negative. It's sort of designed into the design. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but you'll see it in person. The only other thing I'll say about this install is the battery. When you put the battery in, you put it negative side first, then throw the positive in. What I had to do with this is I put the positive a little bit higher up than usual in order to sit above the little pin thing on the battery. That way it holds the battery down completely flat. The issue I had before is if you had it directly onto the little pin thing or below it, this battery would stick up ever so slightly, and then it'd be annoying to put the pommel grip area on, because it would stop it. You'd have to push it down and then slide it over. So I ended up putting the positive a little bit higher in order to hold the battery in place. Now what that means is when you take it out, it's going to want to go negative side first, which is bad because it'll snag onto the negative side and lift up the sort of sheathing or heat shrinking or whatever it is, the protective sleeve for the battery, which is not bad. It is bad. You're going to wear it down, get caught, etc. So when you operate the battery, this is how you do it. Put the negative in, put the positive in, you're good. When you take it out, make sure you lift up the positive side, and that's how it comes out. So you're gonna wanna make sure to lift up the positive side, not the negative side first, and pull it out. And you can do that by holding down the negative and just pulling the positive end out. So just keep that in mind so you don't accidentally rip the battery sleeve. If you have any questions about it, I will make another video for you and send it your way. But yeah, pretty simple, just keep that in mind. And then you can turn it on with the kill switch. I set it up with a custom boot sound because for whatever reason there wasn't a boot sound on this font that I have set up for it. This is running a basic font package that I always do. I just reorganized them so the red ones are up front and the Vader themed ones are up front. And the font package is meant to sort of show off a bunch of different fonts and blade styles. So let me go get a blade and I'll show you how it works. Alright, so how you operate this lightsaber. It takes a 7/8 inch blade. You put it into the emitter, and remember, this greebly here is the blade retention screw. So just unscrew it, put the blade all the way in. Make sure you put some pressure down on the blade so that you know for sure it's making contact with the pins. Tighten that until it's tight, but not too tight. just enough to hold it in place, and then you can press the button. There you go. So let me put this down and then I can show it a little bit better. Alright, so that is sort of a dark side Sith Vader font that has a lot of bass. I thought it would show off the speaker quite well, and it just has a standard blade. This is using the one button prop file from Stock Custom Works, so keep that in mind. I will put the button controls in the description of this video so you understand how it works generally, but I'll go over some of them in this video here. You just tap it to turn it on, hold it until it turns off, and then in order to cycle through fonts, you can just hold it for like a second and then let go.
You cannot hide forever.
And that goes forward. If you want to go backward in your font list, you hold it down until it goes backwards.
Yes. A Jedi's weapon.
There you go. So we'll just cycle through the fonts here.
You cannot hide forever.
It can get some getting used to, so you'll want to practice a little bit.
Red. Blue. Green.
So I have all the colors here.
Purple.
Just a standard blade. This has a sort of post-off effect, an emitter cooldown. I have that set up on a couple of these.
Yellow. White.
It looks kind of blue on camera, but it's more white in person.
This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
Sort of basic Jedi font.
Take your weapon. Strike me down with all of your hatred.
I think I made this a Death Star sort of beam style. I know some of these fonts are from Grayscale fonts, some of them are from Kyberphonic. It's just a collection of...
Rogue Commander.
Just a collection of free fonts that I've had. That there was a Fireblade.
Smooth Jedi. Smooth Fuzz.
This one's a Rainbow Blade.
Smooth Gray. Clean C.
This one's kind of a lava lamp.
Yes.
And then we're back to the beginning.
Jedi's weapon.
Hopefully you got to see a little bit of these fonts and the blade style, but that's pretty much just a standard package I set up with all of my lightsabers. The last thing I'm going to talk about is just how to set the volume. You can change the volume by holding down the button and clashing when the blade's off, and then it'll make some beeps, and if you hold it for a second and then release, it'll go down. If you want it to go up, you just tap it, but if you want it to go down, you hold it for a second and then release. And in order to submit your final, your final choices, just hold it again and clash. There you go. So that's kind of the important controls, how it works, generally what the blade styles and fonts are, You can always customize it yourself. The description of this video is going to have all the customization resources you're going to need, along with the button control file, or at least what the buttons are, how you can control this lightsaber. But if you ever have any questions, just feel free to contact me. Anyways, that's about it for this lightsaber. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed checking out this lightsaber, and if you want to commission a lightsaber build from me, feel free to contact me on Instagram or through my website, averycastillo.com. And finally, to the person who commissioned this from me, if you ever have any questions or any problems, don't hesitate to reach out.